Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our final installment of the 2021-2022 Artist Interviews. My name is Jacob Dowdall. I am current fourth year TDS student, and I am part of the cast of The Servant of Two Masters. I'm very excited to speak with our special guest today. He is a Hamilton-born playwright, director, dramaturg, and educator. He is a member of the critically acclaimed Silk Bath Collective, winner of the Ken McDougall Directing Award, Highlands Art Theatre's Rita Joe Playwriting Award, and a co-recipient of the musical stage companies Aubrey and Marla Danfon for new musicals. Please welcome the director of our MainStage production of The Servant of Two Masters, Aaron Jan.
It is so nice seeing you after 48 hours.
What kind of work or research did you do to prepare going into this show?
When I first was told to direct this show, I was like, oh no, I have no connection to Commedia. So I learned so many things about Commedia. I learned that this is actually not a Commedia piece. It was inspired by Commedia, then staged in courts and staged in theaters. And then I was like, we're not doing it. We're not going to do Commedia. This bores the crap out of me. So rather than do that, I was like, okay. And I realized I was watching a lot of reality TV in pandemic. I was watching a show called Selling Sunset. And I was like, wait a minute. These characters in this Commedia piece are exactly the same as the characters I'm watching in reality TV. I just started watching Selling Sunset religiously, and I started breaking down exactly how the producers make you feel sympathy for certain characters. Part of my preparation for the show, I was watching a lot of Black Mirror. So a lot of the inspiration for the set and the design in the world comes from the episode 100 Million Merits, Daniel Kaluuya's episode. So I watched a lot of Black Mirror. I watched a lot of dystopian narratives, learned about Commedia, threw it out, learned about reality TV. Then I started to build the container and finding what is my way in and what excites me about this? What excites me about this project and makes me really want to do it?
Next question is, what has it been like writing and then directing this adaptation of The Servant of Two Masters?
What I did essentially was they said you could do any adaptation you wanted. And I was like, okay. And I read through all of them and I'm like, you cannot escape the fact that this is a Commedia piece. The more you contemporize it, it just becomes a light farce, and light farce does not interest me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to read the free version of the text by Edward Dent, which was written in the 1920s, translated from Italian. And then I'm going to cut every piece of repeated information. So I dramaturged the show. I also added numerous F-bombs because one of the characters speaks like he's on the show Jersey Shore. And I changed maybe 10 lines. But like in general, I really tried to stick with what I was given. Because the whole thing is, if we're trying to subvert a text, we need to present it as much as it truly is. So that it's the work we find in the room that subverts it.
Not changing the text and putting it into context of contemporary society and contemporary life is very interesting. It's always very interesting because it's forcing people to think.
Yeah, that's why I really didn't have to change the text that much because it was already there. It was just the subtext and finding that through in the performance that really makes the dramaturgical container what it is.
Going forward with that, what is something that is unique about this production of The Servant of Two Masters?
We're not doing Commedia. First of all, anything related to Commedia is thrown out. And second of all, when I first read this show, I had a feeling of like utter disgust when I first read the script. Because I was like, when I was in theater school, little Chinese boy, not little, I was a Chinese young man. I was looking at plays like this. I was like, I'll never have a place in theater. So I was like, how do I continue that feeling of grotesque alienation through the show? But the lead character is a person of color desperately trying to fit into this world. That is what makes the show different. Also, we're in a reality TV show container, but I also really wanted to embrace what scares me and disgusts me about the show. It's a little racist. It's a little classist. It's really heteronormative. So I've staged the nightmare version of the show while still keeping it a farce and still keeping it funny. But I've really tried to mine in the direction of that original initial feeling reading it of being like, oh, I feel alienated. I feel alone. And maybe Truffaldino does too.
What does your directing process look like? Like, do you have any challenges? Did you have any challenges?
Well, everyone sucks, so it was really hard working with you all. No, you're all great. My big thing is I want to empower actors. I want to meet them halfway. I have a very specific process. I don't play mind games. We go in, we do table work, we find units together as a collective, we block, then we're on our feet. And I'm really interested in what actors offer. Like whenever we block, I always ask people, let's do an impulse run first. Now that we've done the units, now that we've broken it down, what does your track lead you through this scene with? And then from that, I'll pull. And I do have pre-blocking, but I'll only use it if we're just like banging our heads against a wall. And I want to bring up something that we did in rehearsal. We couldn't really figure this character out until that one day when it was like, who's mad at Truffledine at the end of the play? And everyone stood on one side and you stood on the other. I was like, oh, this character makes sense. This world makes sense. I know you have 4 years of incredible training. I know you all have a strong skill set. So let's harness that and let's run with it. Because I can tell you what to do. I can tell you where to move. But if I build a strong enough container that you play in it, we can collaborate and we can jam. And at the end of the day, my goal is to give the show back to you. This show now belongs to the 10 of you. And everything in the process was making sure your choices are telling the story, but your tracks are ones that have been built by you in a container I've made. So that's how I work, and that's my process.
Oh, this is fun. How has it been directing a group of soon-to-be graduates, actors who will be stepping into the industry?
Inspiring, honestly. Like, this is my first time directing at a university, and I said this to you folks on throughout the process. This is like my first time working on a non-indie project. I've worked on everything from community projects to like professional project with pros at regional theater companies, but this was my first time working with like students, and like, it's great. I don't know. It was really inspiring seeing you all grow in this process, seeing you all challenge me, seeing you all challenge each other, seeing days where you had ups and downs and guiding you through this process, but also seeing your agency in this process. Like I remember watching opening a few nights ago and I was like, things are happening that I've never seen before, that they're discovering on deck. And that is magical. That is so exciting. I had a terrible experience at theater school when I went there. And just like everything I've been trying to do in this process is try to empower you folks as creators. So really just, I am so wowed by the work of this class. And I'm so wowed by how this class continues to discover and never repeats. And I'm so excited to see what the 10 of you do in a few months when you're out in the real world.
Thank you, Aaron. That's so sweet. Thank
I'm
you.
good at my job.
Now, do you have any favorite lines or parts of this production?
So my first favorite moment in the show is the intro when everyone comes to the square of like you. I don't know, you're on deck, you can't see it, but that moment when they come into frame is like a gasping moment. And then that opening sequence is ridiculous because it is more than you expect from a film show. I love any moment that someone discovers something new on stage. That's always exciting for me. Any moment someone changes the world with their lines, I really feel that, and I feel it in different spots. I'm gonna say my favorite absolute scene in the show is the scene where Oliver and Aaron walk on the spot. Just because there are so many shifts in that scene, and they always hit them consistently. And I also think the comedy is something every actor in that scene discovered themselves. And I think that is the most magical scene for me. In my script, I literally wrote, I don't know what to do with this scene. We tried some stuff in the room and we kept trying it and then it naturally found its shape. So I think that I'm proud of the entire show, but that is a scene where I was like, this came together through pure collaboration. I am proud of Abby's work on the show. I've collaborated with our second year student who's working cameras and she's done so much work. A lot of it is literally Abby, follow the fight. Abby, do what you want, because that's how I work with everyone on processes. And Abby has risen to this challenge. And like the cameras in the show are incredible. And that's the last thing I'm excited about for the show. But the show's great. But those four things are things that really get my goat.
I literally cannot wait to see it on, actually be able to see it. Because I see clips of it sometimes, like during rehearsal. And I was like, oh, that looks so good.
I went so hard because I felt so threatened by Brian Pastalian. I saw Fefu and I was just like, I got to step my camera game up.
What has your biggest takeaway been from your experience directing the show?
That my process can change at any time for the needs of the collective. To continue to be flexible, to continue to be humble, and to continue to be open with cast, but just know that like if something's not working, let's try something else. Let's throw it out. I think I threw out the way I was running the room halfway through the process and restarted just because like some things in the room weren't working. And I was like, let's change this. And I think as a result, the work became stronger and we were able to keep diving deeper into the work. So nothing is permanent. We're going to open. We have the skill set to open. I'm not worried about that, but we can make big changes if the collective desires it.
And you were always really good with communication and always asking and clarifying and double checking and making sure that everybody had a space and a platform to speak and
Mhm.
to voice whatever their concerns were. And
Yeah.
honestly, that made the process amazing.
It's much more enjoyable when we're able to dive deep into the work, but also everyone is able to feel empowered by what we're doing in the room. And it doesn't have to be a process without rigor. Like I never pulled any punches with you all. Like I was never like, oh my God, you're so good. It was always like, oh, that was a bad run. And we talked about it. We were all on the same page because we
Mhm.
created a container together where we were able to fail and we were freely able to fail.
Yeah.
Like that is the best room possible. We fall flat on our face. We all laugh about it. We're like, what happened? And we go back in and try it again.
What would you like to tell our audience members before watching this show? What can they expect?
I have two things. The first is there's an intermission. The show runs at about 2 hours plus 15 minutes and an intermission. Um, just so they know. The second thing is I hope their like kind of experience of the show is questioning why we program farce and who it's actually for. That is just kind of my curiosity in the show is okay, we're doing a farce, but why are we doing it? We're doing theater, but why are we doing it? What's our in? And I'm
Mhm.
very curious about audiences, what they find is their in into the show when they see this production. And if they don't have an in, that's fine too. But I think we collaborate to build a show to question why this show is programmed.
Mhm.
And I don't know if this is an answer because I don't believe in answering things with theater, but this is a question I ask whenever I see a play. So the show explores that question of why the Servant of Two Masters? Why the Servant of Two Masters in 2022? And who is and is not in this narrative?
Thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me, Aaron. Well, you can watch The Servant of Two Masters until March 27th. The show will be live streamed from Erindale Studio Theatre, which means you can watch the show from the comfort of your own home. Tickets are available in the link below. Thank you for watching.
Farewell.